This woman has achieved what few men or women have been able to. She's a Peruvian American explorer, mountaineer, social entrepreneur, and technologist. And in June 2018, she completed her climbs of the 7 summits, the tallest mountains on every continent. She's here with us live to talk about her experience. Let's welcome Silvia Vasquez Lavado.
Hi,
Sylvia?
Cass. How are you?
Oh, it's so good to see you. Oh my gosh,
You too.
it's just wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. So, Sylvia, it's been a long time since I saw you. You have absolutely been someone who has traveled the world. You've gone to all these different summits, and yet you're here to talk about a really fascinating experience you had using plant medicine that inspired you not only to climb the 7 summits, but also to found your organization, Courageous Girls. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. And what an honor to be here. I mean, first of all, what a gift for you and Deepak to put this beautiful summit together. And, it's unfortunate that there is a connection about mental health, and we tend to be very critical of it. And yet, we need more platforms like this. We need more gatherings like this that allow us to really be honest, open, transparent, and to bring to the forefront that mental health is, there shouldn't be a stigma about it. It's actually a way to allow us to be more free. But thank you for inviting me, and I'm excited to share my journey. But yeah, I actually, I'm writing a book right now about my experience. But just like many women around the world, unfortunately 1 out of 3 women around the world, according to the UN, and in the United States, 1 of 6 men at one point in their lifetime will experience some kind of sexual violence. And for me, this happened when I was a little girl between ages 6 and 9, and that trauma really kind of got ingrained in me. And as much as I tried to run away from it, I came to the States to try to start a new life. Unfortunately, the memories and the pain really can get into someone. And I became an addict. I was an alcoholic, and I was destroying my life. And it was at a point in which I could no longer take it anymore. Um, I already had been arrested under a DUI, I had been in jail, and still that just couldn't stop me. And it was, I think, until my younger brother found me, completely passed out in the front of the house with all my puke surrounded, that I decided to reach out for help. And I called my mom, and she was living in Peru at the time. And I told her, I need help. I mean, I just can't take this anymore. And ironically, she said, you know what, come to Peru. I know what you need. And it was to do an ayahuasca session. She actually had done an ayahuasca session with a dear cousin of mine who he had been doing his residency in the jungle. And while he was in the jungle, he managed to start working with Dr. Jacques Mabit, who is possibly one of the most I would say one of the most advanced teachers and scientists in terms of kind of looking what ayahuasca can do in terms of healing. And at the time, they were at the very early stages of the study in terms of presenting it to the Western world. Ayahuasca has been used, by centuries, by the indigenous in the Amazon, and not just in Peru, in Brazil, in Colombia, in Ecuador. And so this wasn't new to them, but my cousin was one of the first ones who actually was starting to see the power of the medicine. And so he did a session with my mother in Peru a couple of years before I asked for my help. And it's interesting because my mother was an incredibly close-minded, conservative, very Catholic. And so for her to do it, that's something led me like, okay, this is a little bit strange. Um, she would never do something like that. And her insights and what came out of her, had stayed in my subconscious. So I remember when I asked for help, the irony is that at that point in my life, I just felt there were some evil forces that were maybe making me act this way,
Mhm.
and that I almost wanted to get to the bottom of it. So I had nothing to lose. I was so down in my luck that, I figured like, okay, well, let's do anything. If I can do this to get an insight, like who is behind it,
Mm.
who is trying to cause so much pain. And so, and I did prepare for it. And it was a very, special session with a priestess from the jungle.
Mm.
And it was amazing. I had both my parents, my cousin. And on that session, on that ceremony, I got possibly the one insight that I would have never imagined in my life. I mean, here I saw myself as an adult. And then I saw, the little version of me on a corner, kind of how, after the abuse had been happening, and I saw her shivering. And then I remember seeing myself reconnecting to her, and actually, which was a first for me. I had been running away from the pain, the shame. I felt that by trying to hide it, by just embracing the identity that I had been a survivor, that I would, get my life together. And here it was, this experience was connecting me to the one thing that I had ignored the most. And so I remember, as I reconnected to my inner self and my little girl, I embraced her. I felt like, here I am to protect you. Nobody protected you. Well, let me be the one protecting you. And somehow around, as we were having this experience, then I heard this rumbling around me. And next thing, I was surrounded in a valley of mountains. And my little girl started leading the way and taking me through walking among mountains. And I was just completely in shock. And I remember through my vision, I just started, following her, and that kind of what came out of it. So it was it's nothing that I had ever imagined or expected. There were no negative energies that were, pushing me to my self-destruction. It was all inside of me,
Wow.
which is something so sacred that is, something that I only attributed it to the plant and to the ceremony.
Incredible, amazing. And so that inspired you also to found Courageous Girls. And tell us a little bit about that and what kinds of experiences you've seen the girls have in terms of how mountaineering and travel have changed their mental health.
Yeah, I mean, the irony is that the plant put the seed on me,
Mm.
to kind of take this walk around a mountain. And so prior for me launching Courageous Girls, I was like, mountains and nature, why in the world? How are these connected? And what did this vision came? And I ended up doing this journey to go to the base of Everest. And that was the first time in my life that being surrounded by the immense power of nature in a way that I had never seen it in my life created a powerful emotion and feeling of strength and courage,
Mm.
and something that I had never experienced. And it propelled me to make it to the base of Everest in 4 days, as opposed to the 8 to 12 days that it usually takes. I forgot. There was altitude limitations. I just wanted to be surrounded, and I felt safe. I felt held. I felt this emotion of just, belonging within these massive mountains. And so when I got to the base of Everest, I was lucky to climb this small peak called Patar to see the sunrise between Everest and Nuptse. And as the sun came out, I was so moved by this journey I had never thought was going to provide me those emotions, that I said to the mountain, one day I'm going to attempt to climb back and, climb to the top of Everest with the right preparation, but I also will come back with a social cause. And so, I can say that the plan put in me purpose and put in me actually put the idea, gave me the hint as to what to do, continuing in this whole path of healing. And he just put, the little seeds for me to then, let purpose take on its place. And so after several years in this journey, I got the clarity that, my calling was to create a foundation and allow young women who had had a similar experience to me to find their healing in nature. And that propelled me to launch Courageous Girls, is providing, women to really find themselves in, just really developing their own courage. And unfortunately, trauma can just be so limiting and can create and cast so much doubt in our lives that, at least, this whole journey and my, contribution is, provide a safe haven for people to explore, just all the strength and power that they have. And, that was the impetus of launching Courageous Girls.
Oh, that's great, Sylvia. Tell me what it's like, has been like to be also seen, you've been the first gay woman to climb the 7 summits, as the press will never let you forget. But, there's something about being part of the LGBT community that I'm sure has linked into all of this. How has that been for you?
It is interesting. When I first started climbing, I never went at it, to become the first of something. I mean, my whole climbing journey at first, and that's what even took me a while until I was comfortable to launch my social cause. But I started my climbing journey as a way of healing, kind of as an extension of the ayahuasca journey that put me connecting into this sacred inner part of me that unfortunately, had been damaged. And so it was funny because I imagine, because it's mountaineering is not easy and it's hard and it's very tough. So I remember thinking, I am sure there is a lot of really hardcore, butch women that already have done it. I just haven't heard of them. Ultimately, I found out I was the first one who was on the path, and I really was surprised because I felt, well, okay, well, you know what? I never thought I would grab this identity, but okay, here it is representation.
Mm.
And that's something that has been more so important for me. I believe that, especially in some of these extreme outdoor activities, it's still very male oriented, but the importance of representation is something we can never undermine. You just never know, how you can touch a person's life.
Yeah.
And, when we struggle with shame, when we struggle with trauma, many times we do it in silence and we do it alone.
Mm.
And, at times we try to search for, those, like role models. And I think I'm getting a little emotional thinking that, it's an amazing gift to become one of those role models and to, show people that, you know, we don't need to be alone.
Yeah.
And so kind of breaking barriers is something exciting.
It's amazing, Sylvia. And you've climbed the actual summits, but everybody has some form of summit in their life that they're trying to climb. And I think that from where you come from, the kind of story you have to share, and that incredible experience with the plant medicine showing you your younger self and having her lead you to the mountain is just going to be inspiring for all kinds of people. Do you have anything you'd like to share? Do you want to send anyone to learn more about you? I know there's a film coming out about you. You're going to be played by Selena Gomez. Did you ever think that would happen? How wild. Anything you
Yeah.
want to point people to?
Well, I would say, I think I was amazed when I was reading the story of just overall psychedelics. I actually was surprised how much research had been done, decades ago. But then, we went through a period in which this was seen as, immoral, and all this incredible research kind of almost got thrown to waste. And I believe that, it's an opportunity to really look at, at psychedelics, as plant medicine, in a way that when done properly, it can give us so many answers about ourselves. And I think there's a little stigma still about it. And I think, the opportunity of being able to break through it, of course, there are people that are profiting from it, who are doing it in a way that it is not prepared. But I feel that if done properly, if done with purpose, if done in a way that, you prepare yourself to it, you do the adequate research, you do the right preparation, it gives us the amazing insight about ourselves, which can unlock so much of it. And that is something that is so important and powerful and inspiring. So I think, if anything, now the story's out in the open. I mean, my book is coming out next February.
Hmm.
It's called In the Shadow of the Mountain. And, and I openly talk about it. I hope to have the opportunity to really, be able to share in different platforms, to take away the shame, the fear, the judgment that we have. Because, I mean, that experience literally put me in the path that I am in right now. And I think it would be amazing, for us to keep bringing that in the forefront. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I would say, in terms of my what I'm putting out there in the world, I hope people get interested in reading this humble journey, that I'll be able to share with all the bells and whistles. And then I think once the book is out, we'll be continue working on the movie. But Courageous Girls, right now we've created a leadership trekking academy. We're going to be having trips for people to join the many of the survivors of now have become trekking guides, and it is an extension of just allowing people to experience the immense power of healing.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Sylvia, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for the work you're doing in this area.
Thank you, Cass.